I noticed that they left the space next to my name in the bulletin blank, which seems to me to be a uniquely dangerous thing to do, don't you? It says, it means unlimited, I believe, but it's a joy to be able to reflect with you on the Christmas pageant. When Helen and I lead chapel for the Child Care Center in the month of December, we set out on the different Wednesdays to spend time trying to talk to the children about the Christmas story. And we have different ways of doing it. We often bring in one of the mangers from our house and we look at the different people and describe them. And of course, we have to spend a lot of time keeping the Christmas story as the children want to tell it, just being a mashup of all different kinds of stories so that we don't have the Grinch coming to the manger scene or Mary riding Rudolph to get to Bethlehem, that sort of thing. But it's really actually kind of encouraging to find out how many of the children know the story and would love to be able to tell you the story as you lift up different parts. And it's wonderful to be able to see the eyes of those children who are just hearing it and learning it for the first time begin to grasp it and let it sink in for them and become something that they're holding on to. But when it gets to the Wednesday right before the Child Care Center closes for the Christmas holidays, it's been our practice not to come and meet in the chapel. We just meet over in Struble Hall, and we like to show videos, different videos about the Christmas story. There's lots of wonderful little cartoon videos, and I used to begin by showing the cartoon videos. I thought the kids would like those, but they tire of those pretty quickly. But we came upon there's one or two particular churches who have put together a retelling of the Christmas story where children are narrating the story in their own words and in their own ideas, and then cut in between their narration are scenes of adults dressed as the Christmas characters acting out the Christmas story with the children's voices dubbed over their actions, so that when the adult speaks, you hear the children's voice as the children are telling the story. And that's the video that the children love to see over and over and over again, to see other children trying to tell the story, doing a good job telling the story, and to see adults dressed up as Christmas characters but hear the children's voices. And there's one particular point that just seems to undo the children, where they roll around the floor laughing. Gabriel's kind of an interesting looking man. He's got a really short haircut, a very expressive face, and when it comes to the time when he is supposed to sing to the shepherds the good news of Christ's birth, and of course he goes into a Gloria, and you can hear the children singing the Gloria through his voice, and he goes off key and makes a funny expression with his face, Gloria, and the children just love that part, and they laugh and they laugh. The only other part that gets them laughing more is when one of the children says, and the animals pooped in the manger, and it really smelled bad. That seems to undo them a little extra biblical criticism there. I think they add to the story. We even tried showing a video this year of a church nativity scene where it came to the end, and as the children were gathered around the manger scene, there was one little girl who was playing a sheep, and she got interested, and she walked over to the manger to see what was in there as the others were gathered around in it. It was a nice baby doll, and she decided she'd like that baby doll playing the baby Jesus, so she reached in and grabbed it and started to walk off stage with it. And then when Mary saw her do that, Mary got up and chased her into the stage and grabbed baby Jesus and put it back in the manger again. But that little sheep was not to be thwarted. She got back up, and pretty soon they had a wrestling match between Mary and the sheep. The children thought that was pretty good too as well. What is it about this story as it's told, especially by children, and as children see adults even acting out the story? What is it that's so powerful for them, so captivating, so full of wonder? Marilyn Robinson, a very highly regarded and well-known author, had a quote that we saw was being circulated in the last few weeks. And she wrote that she thinks people come to church on Christmas and on Easter because it's at that time when they will hear in the worship service the two most significant moments in the whole Christian narration: The moment of Christ's birth told in the story of Christmas, and the moment of Christ's resurrection told in the story of Easter. It's at that point that they'll hear the narration, and they'll hear, as she put it, narration's ability to break through the continuities of history and become something present for people. It's at that point, she said, that the stories, the narrative, will take on a unique power and authority of their own and bring forth a meaning that transcends all of the flow of history itself. It's as though she was saying, people come eager and anxious and ready to hear the power of the story, of the narrative, break into their lives and into their world to open up something new, to open up to the wonder and gift of God's presence and God's activity in their lives and in the world. I think she's right about that. I think we know that even if we've never put it quite that way. You and I, we may have experienced it ourselves, coming on Christmas to see this story being told, hoping and longing and eager again, not only to hear, but to deeply experience, to be moved by this power in the story, to enter into our lives and into the world with something new, something real, something transformative. The good news of God's love and grace and goodness at work in the world and in our lives. We long to hear that again and again and again, whether we're adults or children. The children have the ability to see it with eyes that can behold wonder. I was struck by the number of you who, in writing your Advent devotions, included some story of the children as an illustration of wonder for you. Just 2 days ago, I think in Nancy Jones's Advent devotion, she remembered how her granddaughter Mila, who is here today, I believe as an angel, was being an angel for the first time. And after the pageant was over and people started to leave, Mila came back up to peer over into the manger to see what was there. And Nancy, being able to see that through Mila's eyes, opened her to the gift of wonder. I was reminded, reading a little synopsis about the Charlie Brown Christmas special and how it came out in 1965. And its uniqueness, its a power to be so endearing and captivating to people. And the author was saying, you know, there are all kinds of wonderful Christmas movies and stories that Ebenezer Scrooge and Jimmy Stewart and A Wonderful Life. They have the power to remind us something about the spirit of Christmas. But something happened in that Charlie Brown special that actually, this author said, delivered the actual goods of Christmas. You remember the scene after they had been agonizing, or at least Charlie Brown had been agonizing through most of the whole special about the commercialization of Christmas and Snoopy decorating up his house with all those lights and just driving him crazy and all that kind of stuff going on. They're at the school play, and I forget what it is that happens that sets Charlie Brown off, but he goes, "Doesn't anybody remember the real meaning of Christmas?" And you remember what happens next. Linus says, "Sure, Charlie Brown, I do." And he steps to the center of the stage, and his little blanket suddenly becomes the wrap of a shepherd's cap on his head. And he says, "Lights, please." And the spotlight narrows down on him. And what does he begin to do? In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be enrolled. And he delivers the goods. The story of Christmas, as we hear it in the Gospel of Luke. And then all those children go out into the world singing, "Hark the herald angels sing." We come here again and again to hear the story, hoping that the goods will be delivered, don't we? We got our first video camera in our family when our youngest child, John Daniel, was born. So we have video record of his birth, not of the other two. They were actually born, but we have video record of John Daniel's birth. And that being the first, I was busy videoing everything that happened on that day and in the delivery room. We had no idea that this would happen, but it turned out naturally to be John Daniel's favorite video to watch. When he was 4 years old, we say, "What do you want to watch, John?" "Oh, I want to see the story of me," he called it. As he named it, the story of me. 5 years old, "I want to see the story of me." 6 years old, "What do you watch, John Daniel?" "I want to see the story of me," over and over and over again. And we just let him watch it endlessly. We got tired of it ourselves and walked out of the room. He came home when he was 26 and we said, "John Daniel, what do you want?" "I want to see the story of me." And we thought, it's not as cute as it used to be now, John. This is the story of God. The story of God's birth into the world. And as we hear this story told again and again, it begins to dawn on us that it's the story of us as well. Your story and my story. The early church used to say that God became human so that humans could become God. And by that, they didn't mean that humans would acquire divine power, divine capability, divine characteristics in that way. But they meant that human beings, you and I, human life could be filled with God's love and grace and goodness in such a way that we would become what God intended us to be. As John tells it in the prologue to his gospel, if you believe in him, he gives you power to become children of God. And that is who we are. Our story here told in God's story. So let the space not be blank in the bulletin, but let us all see together, the children shall tell the story. Amen.